The only way to learn how to design is to design. You can watch all the YouTube videos on this internet. You can really take all the courses. If you don't put it to practice, it's not doing anything for you. I feel like every designer needs to build some level of curiosity because your design has to be data driven. You need to ask questions, and if you don't ask these questions, you won't get the answers you need that will then inform your visual or design decisions. I've done something design related every day since 2021. There's a notion that the product design space is saturated. I kid you not, it's not saturated at all. We have many people learning design, venturing into design, but we only have very few actually good product designers. So if you are trying to learn design and you're saying, oh, there are many designers already, that is not an excuse to not learn design.
Hello everyone and welcome to yet another episode. Today we have a guest that I am super excited to have had the chance to grab her last minute before she catches her flight in the next 3-4 hours. Yes, so today I'm joined by Alison and I'm going to give her the opportunity to introduce herself. But before that, I'm noticing we have the same kind of glasses template.
That is true.
I was told that this is the new kind of style that people are feeling.
Only bosses wear
Only
them.
bosses wear this, period. Okay, well, Alison, do us the honors and introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, hi guys. My name is Alison Eyo. I identify as a product designer. Basically means that I design digital experiences for, digital products. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
That's you in a nutshell. Okay, well, the way I met Alison is actually because we've worked together before, and I think her work is absolutely phenomenal. And we actually just came from a trip together, and I just thought that this is my time to shine, to come and have you on this platform. But yeah, maybe you can start with letting us know a bit more about yourself from the very beginning. When did you, what does your journey look like? When you were younger, did you always think, okay, I would end up in something creative? Or when did this journey of yours begin?
Yeah, my career path trajectory is very complicated. So let's go back to Alison at 7 years. Alison at 7 years is the only daughter in the family of 2, first child. And I'm very close to my dad, so I'm daddy's baby girl. And at the time, he got his first laptop, but he never used them, so he would leave them with me. And I was typing. He was writing books, by the way. He's an author. So he used to handwrite his books on paper, and I would type them. And then this kept on going. Even in my school that I was in, I was one of the best computer science, pupils, students, whatever, at the time. And then I just grew very engaged with the IT part of life really early on. So I have aunties come over for holidays and they're like, Alison, you should be in the kitchen. Why are you not in the kitchen with other girls? And my dad is like, she's working for me. So.
Was that actually like a thing, like where you grew up?
Yes, it was a thing. My immediate family, we don't really care, honestly. But I have my extended family, I have a lot of aunties who believe, that's how they were raised. I don't really blame them. But that the woman's room in the kitchen the house is like the kitchen. So like every time you're having family functions, you should be cooking, you should be cleaning, which I do anyways, but that's not my identity. So I have like a whole thing outside of that.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I think it's also the same for us culturally, especially in my home. That belief that women should be in the kitchen and do this and that. But it's funny that was one of the things that they think you should be doing and prioritizing rather than
I was also the first daughter.
And you were the first daughter, so there's a lot of expectations. That were there for you. And this was in Lagos?
This was in Lagos,
okay.
This was in Lagos.
Okay.
Also my other sibling, there's just 2 of us, by the way, he's a boy. So they felt like you are not doing your girly role and the way you're doing is a boy's thing. And my dad always conditioned my mind to be very independent growing up. So the things that girls would do and like, oh, she's a babe, like you're not allowed to do that. So I feel like this is like detouring from the topic, but I actually developed a tomboy identity really early on. So I was doing things that girls were doing, like earrings and long hair and makeup. I was like, oh, if you're doing that as a girl, you're unserious. That's just what my dad put in my head. Subconsciously. But like he actually helped, because if I was doing those things at the time, I probably wouldn't have gotten to where I am now because of the way that I was raised, by the way. It's not like it works for everybody else. So let's fast forward to when I was 14. Now I'm done with secondary school and I'm waiting to get into university. The way that it works in Nigeria is you write an exam called JAM and wait for the results. Then go to the school to write something called a post-JAM. Like if you pass JAM, you write the school's post-JAM. If you then pass, you get the course that you wanted to apply for or study in school. But there's like...
What happens if you don't get the post-JAM?
You have to write them again. So JAM is only valid for 1 year. So if you fail them, you have to write it again the next year. You can't get admission. Or maybe you can, so let's say you don't fail, but you don't get up to the cutoff mark for the course you intended to study. You could get like a secondary course, which is like lower in hierarchy to the first course you picked. So I wrote JAM when I was 14, and the highlight of this part of the story is that there is a break between, it's not JAM today, post JAM tomorrow, it's like a few months break. So while you're waiting for your JAM results to come out, you'll be home basically.
Yeah.
And Alison is still a very restless person. So you can't keep me at home and say, wait for your post jam. I'll lose my mind. So my dad was like, you know what? Go and learn graphic design. He's an author. So the guys that used to print his book covers at the time had a cafe where they would do all of the graphic design jobs there. And he sent me there to...
That is... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that is so interesting and contrary to what I think a lot of African parents would not recommend that as your course of choice, or at least from my experience, a lot of us, when we were having rating periods before uni, it had to do with, would go for courses like, okay, do ICDL or something to do computer or languages. It was very rare for me to, I think it was one of the things that I personally suggested as something you could do, because I had a passion for art and design back in high school, but it was something so out of in my imagination that, oh yeah, let's just go do graphic design, because of the imagination that, or the delusion that, oh, it's not a career that you can pursue.
No. Yeah, my dad didn't send me to learn graphic design because he wanted me to be a graphic designer.
Okay.
He was like, your idol, when you're idol, the devil can use you.
Yeah.
So go do something with your life.
Okay.
I applied to study medicine, by the way. So I've always been, I was in science class. I was supposed to be a medical doctor. I probably still will be, I don't know. But I was in the medical line at that point. But he's like, you know what, you're home now, you're waiting for your admission, go do something with your life. So I went to this place, and to be honest, the guys were amazing graphic designers, but they were terrible teachers. They didn't know how to teach. So most of what they were doing was watch me do stuff. And I'm looking at what you're doing, but I don't understand why you came to this decision. Okay, why did you make that background red? Yeah. Why is it not purple? So like, I didn't understand the basics, fundamentals of design at the time, so I struggled a bit. But then I hated the learning process. I liked that I was hanging out with them because they were really cool people, but I hated the process of, like, it was exhausting, like it was stressing. I was struggling with it, and then I dropped it, and luckily I got into university to study medical biochemistry. I didn't get medicine, I got medical biochemistry. Now, I went to a federal university, which means in Nigeria that you are prone to strikes, which have worsened as time has passed.
Wow.
So somewhere in my third year, I had my IT. I had my IT in an oil and gas company. That's another very good story, because now I'm coming from medicine to oil and gas.
Wait, sorry. Could you just run that back? So you went into the medical
biochemistry, but I did my third year of a 4-year course. You do something called an industrial training program, where you take 6 months and go to an actual office like this and be an intern to like actually practice what you've studied in school.
What you've been studying.
Yeah, but I did that IT in an oil and gas company. Yeah, I said it's chaotic. It's a lot. But the plan at that point was to then move to the industrial part of biochemistry, because biochemistry is really wide. And I felt like I was struggling with the medical part at the time.
At that time.
Because of like the resources that I was exposed to. So the school wasn't the greatest with that field. And I felt like I would do better in the industrial part of biochemistry. So my dad put me there. I did 9 months actually instead of 6 months. I got an extension because I was so good.
And what was the role like at that?
It was a production chemistry intern, which means that all of the chemicals that they use on the boat, on the FPSO, processing offshore platform on the sea, all the chemicals that go there and how they are used were managed by my team, who's led by my supervisor. So I was interning and learning how chemicals actually aid the oil process and gas process and all of that. So yeah. Now, this is like, I'm now 17. So I moved from being graphic designer to medical student to oil and gas intern.
Did you finish high school at 14?
Yeah. I don't know how that happened, but I did.
What do you mean you don't know how that happened?
I started school really early, which is, by the way...
How early, surely, for 14?
No, I started at
okay,
like...
no, wait. 14 is the age. No, that 14 is the age that I started high school. Yeah.
No.
Yes. I finished high school at 18.
How long is high school?
4 years.
High school is 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Valid.
So after 6 years of elementary school,
Okay,
you then do 6 years of high school.
Okay, gotcha.
But
Sorry.
yeah, okay,
I
it doesn't matter.
digress.
Anyways, so what was I saying before?
You were talking about now you finished your biochemistry internship that you did at the oil and gas company. So
and
what
then,
was next?
Yeah, so I'm supposed to go back to school for my final year. But then Nigeria happens and there's a strike.
Oh.
And the strike was looking like a very long one because they had taken multiple strikes the previous years, and now they still didn't have their needs met. So like now we are going striking for a very long time. It was a year, by the way. The strikes for a whole year.
Wow. And how long before you now had to finish the 1 year?
I had to wait till after the strike. So it was like a year, 6 months after. So I had an extra year because of the strike. And also COVID happened around the same period. Yeah, I've had a very long, chaotic career path. But then COVID plus the strike, everything was about 2 years. So I had those 2 extra years because of like the whole thing. So I did my final year after COVID.
Wow. And what was those 2 years like for you?
Yeah. So again, I'm done with IT and I can't be in school. So I'm idle again. And Alison cannot be idle. So, actually, during my IT, I had a guy in my class say that girls don't know how to code. That coding is a guy's job. And I went to learn web development just to prove a point. Yeah. So I was doing front-end development actually before I started product design.
Wait. So when did you... Okay, what did you do to then prove him wrong?
I took courses. I started like actually coding. I would implement other people's designs and just show like, yeah, I can code.
That's so different from
what I'm doing now. Yeah. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. I was everywhere. I didn't think about practicing biochemistry, medical biochemistry, because the environment that I was in, I just want to get good grades and live here. I'm not really interested in working with this degree because it didn't look like something that I could work with. It was very abstract. There's not a lot of resources to learn with. So it was just the lecturer coming to pour whatever he had read from Wikipedia back to students. So it was the most impractical course actually. Actually, I don't recommend anybody studying biochemistry in Nigeria because when you come out to like the world and see how other people in like other parts of Africa or Europe have learned biochemistry, you are very defenseless. You can't defend what you learned because it almost has no weight anymore. Because like biochemistry in a whole is an amazing thing. It's like we're the ones thinking about the cure for cancer and everything. Yeah. But in the classroom in Nigeria, it's like, what are you guys doing? It's nothing there. Exactly. It's very...
That's so unfortunate.
Yeah, unfortunately. So I just felt like I wouldn't be able to work with this thing.
But also, was design something that had crossed your mind before you had that statement from your classmate? Or okay, if you knew that biochemistry wasn't going to be the path that you're seeing yourself career-wise, if you would think of your career, then did you have something in mind that wasn't biochemistry?
The plan was to go back to study medicine properly as a medical, because that was like my first choice.
That was
anyways.
your first
The plan
choice.
was, I'll finish this degree and then go back to do like biochemistry, preferably in the medical school in the US, with like, I have medical biochemistry first degree, so it will up my chances to get to medical school
And do
in
your second degree.
Boston, particularly.
Wow.
That was the plan. But yeah, that didn't happen. Might still happen, I don't know. But that was the plan. It's not a sad story. I'm actually happy where I am right now.
Okay,
yeah.
then all right, now you've taken the design courses and you
No,
have
the
this
web
the
development
web
courses,
developing courses.
and I started coding. And I honestly loved it until I met JavaScript. That was where everything went south.
That's where
So,
everything went
Yeah,
south.
I'm like, I can't do this. So I left it. And I had a friend who actually knew me from my graphic design days. And he was like, oh, there's this new thing called UI UX design. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You saw me struggle through graphic design. Why would you recommend me going to learn anything design related again? Because like I would have serious depression when I go to Instagram and see other people's design work. I'm like, how did you come up with this? How did you think about, how did you implement this thing? Because like I would struggle with ideation. I would struggle with thinking about how the visuals should be. How do you do this grading? How do you know that it will look good here?
Yes.
How do you make these decisions? Because I didn't understand the principles. And then he recommended, I'm like, bro, if you want to mock me to my face. Don't tell me to go learn anything design related, because you already know that like I struggle with this thing for the longest time.
When you did graphic
and
design.
then he's like, Alison, just trust me on this one. But see, now I'm frustrated from web development and I'm not in school. So, I like a challenge. Let's take it. And I learned about UI UX design. This was actually an internship that happened in 2020 called HNG internship. It's open to, I think, everybody in the world, but it's mostly done by Nigerians because the CEO is Nigerian. It's a 10-week internship. Feels more like a competition because they give you tasks every week and they eliminate people based on performance at the end of the week. So at the time, we started at 11,000 people in week 1, ended up with about less than 500 people at the end of the 10th week. So that was like bragging rights. The whole process is an entirely different story. I don't want to talk about it. It was so challenging. But my dedication in those 10 weeks have bettered everything else I have done till date. That was the turning point for me. Not just as an individual, like a person, like work-wise, like everything that I have learned, every principle of design that I have now, every principle of work that I have now stemmed from those 10 weeks. Yeah.
Wow.
It was so hectic. I would go 2 days without sleeping. I would be eating like once a day. Again, I'm the first daughter, so...
And how did was it a free program or this challenge?
Yeah, it was free.
Wow.
It was a free program. The anxiety of waking up to seeing that you've been removed from the internship was messing with me. It was hard. It was so hard. It's giving PTSD. I don't want to talk about this. But yeah.
Would you say it was worth it?
It was, oh my God, I would do it again. I would recommend anybody doing it again. So there's this thing saying like, oh, you're wasting 10 weeks of your life. Like, it's a very toxic space. That's the thing. You need to prepare for the worst. Right now, there is no work environment I can't fit into because I've done the worst case scenario. I will not encourage it, however, but like if push comes to shove, I will take it.
You will be able to
because like I've seen the worst of it.
You've seen the worst.
I've seen the worst of it. I feel like everybody needs that experience, which is why I hear people talking about it's a toxic workspace, and then you hear, okay, what did they do that was so toxic? And it's like, oh, they made me work to 7 p.m. Well,
that to you does not classify. It feels like it's part of the process. And
yeah,
not
like
part of...
you need to get the job done. Yes, I understand. There's like it's a 9 to 5, but like, come on, think of this company as your own, or like put it as your own. If it's put in a few extra minutes, that shouldn't be too much to ask, honestly.
I'll take that with a grain of salt. I think there are, especially in the startup tech world, there's a lot of boundaries that people don't necessarily put, and so there are lines that are crossed that maybe shouldn't be crossed. There's also that. So that's, I think, the biggest challenge that I think I see in the tech space. There's so many wonderful things about it, and there's flexibility and working from home, but there's also boundaries that are not set, which means that today, if I did set plans at 8 p.m., this one time, I don't want to constantly not be able to do that because my boss is gonna call me at any time.
Oh
shape,
yeah,
and form,
oh
and
the
then be upset about
that,
that.
absolutely, there's that. Like I'm not even encouraging. I actually would recommend like setting the boundaries.
Yeah.
But there are times when like it's a all hands on deck
Now,
situation.
yeah,
And we
okay.
are all aware like we need to do this thing, and you're like, oh, I'm
Exactly.
not gonna work till 9 a.m. tomorrow.
No, but honestly, I think everyone should have their fair share of struggle sometimes here in the world. I think I would like to believe mine was in high school. High school was very traumatizing, but also no. But I think I've had the opportunity to work with amazing people in my career experience, and yes, there, as anywhere else, there are some toxic elements that I would not do again, but I think they make you more wiser in maybe how you're going to present yourself in the next space. Whether you need to create boundaries, what you can handle, what you can't handle,
Yeah.
and ultimately what then you need to do when you have your own thing going on.
Exactly.
So, yeah, very crucial for you to go through some experiences in life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I needed that.
you needed that.
I don't think, because again I was really young, so I didn't really
True.
understand the concept of the work, like what it meant to actually do work
Yeah.
in a professional way until then. So I needed that.
Okay. Well, now 10 weeks are over. You've done
Times
this
are
program.
over. I'm done with the internship. Another thing that I think I see some camera, but yeah, remember that before this time I didn't really have any UX design experience. So somewhere in week 6, the founder says if you didn't have any design experience before this time, getting here is by luck. You might not be able to make it to stage 10. And I'm like, watch me. So now I'm going the extra mile. I know that I don't have this experience, but I know that I need to put in everything to get to that stage. So I'm calling people that have
Experience.
this
in
experience. I'm
field.
talking to them. I'm watching videos. I'm taking courses. I was doing the absolute most. I feel like I need that energy. I've grown lazy. I need that energy back, like to do like a lot of stuff
do
in my
other
life right
things
now.
you're
Because
wanting to do.
if I put half of that
half as
energy
much.
now, oh my God, I'll do so much.
But was it
then-
during COVID time?
It was during
I feel
COVID
times
time.
were different. Times
Yeah,
were different.
times were
You had
different.
all the time in the world to obsess
Exactly.
over something like this.
Exactly. But yeah, so this is week 6, 4 weeks to the end. I'm putting everything I have, and to God be the glory, I made it to stage 10, and I was now HND finalist. Okay, what next? We're still in COVID. HND is done. I feel like, okay, we're done. So what's the next thing we're doing? Because I can't stay idle. I can't be idle. And then I take up a job with somebody I meet during the internship who is a back-end engineer. And the product never launched, but I think that's another point where I got to understand what it meant to work on design as a sole designer. Like I was doing everything end to end. He was supervising because he's the engineer, but I didn't understand like what it meant to design a full product and like think about, because during the internship we're doing like basic things like, oh, design this page, but the entire user journey I did not get
You
it
weren't
until that
understanding.
point. So when you say things like, oh, Alison, you designed this page, but what happens when they click here? I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that, so now I have to do it. And it's like, okay, but how do they sign up? Oh, I didn't think about that. So like it was just, you need to think about
Every step of a user experience.
every call to action leads somewhere. What happens if there's an error? What happens if it doesn't work? What happens at every point? You think about the entire user journey. And I think that's another very big point, because he was frustrated having to work with me. Like, why did I tell you everything? When like I really don't know. So
Because you don't
Exactly.
You kind of just knew how to do the
yeah.
designs.
So it
and
was like,
everything.
if you're a finalist, I expect that you should know these things. But like, yeah, I'm a finalist, but like I didn't get the whole stuff. It wasn't a school. It was like me self-teaching and putting in everything that I have taught myself. So I didn't get this part of the whole thing. So I was doing for like 3 months, and then we had to end because like he had other things he was doing. He couldn't think about launching the product, and he couldn't hire people to continue building what I had done. So we put a pin on that. And then still in COVID, this is like November of 2020. I see this beautiful website. I don't know how I even found it.
mtsafrica.com. That was a shameless plug for my website. You said, this is a beautiful website. go check it out. But I
Yeah.
digress.
I see a beautiful website, and I'm like, I want to know who did this thing. Then I go to the company. It's called Hagbolex, by the way. I think they folded. They're not longer. I don't know if they're still working, but I haven't heard of them in a while. So I go to their team page and I see senior product designer Chris Steve. I'm like, I ain't talk to this guy. I go to his Facebook. I stalk him: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. And I'm like, how do I get this person? And then I see that we have a mutual on my WhatsApp. And I asked this guy to connect
Your
me.
WhatsApp. How do you see you have a mutual on
No,
WhatsApp?
so I have I have a friend who worked there as a customer support something.
Okay.
So that was actually how I found the website, because he was always posting the links. So like, oh, could you introduce me? He's like, yeah, the guy's busy. Yeah, okay, I'll check in tomorrow. Hey, could you introduce me? Yeah, we're in a meeting right now. Okay, I'll check in tomorrow. For like 2 weeks. I was buzzing. I need to talk to this person. This guy, I felt like I didn't want to reach out on my own, because like it would be harder to get a response when you go by yourself
I feel
than when
you.
somebody introduces
I feel
you,
you.
sadly.
Yeah.
Especially when you're a junior designer who has almost nothing to offer. Like if they are responding
why
to
would I
you,
wanna talk to you?
like, they probably won't talk to you. Or maybe won't even like, maybe just forget. They're really busy people.
Yeah.
So then finally, after I keep disturbing this guy, and he's like, you know what, Alison, you are being a pain in my ass. I'm going to introduce you to this person. And then he shares his I don't know if it was email or Twitter handle with me, and tells the guy that, oh, she will message you. So now he's expecting me. And I go to his email, I'm like, oh, I got your contact from this person, and I really like to ask a few questions if you give me 20 minutes of your time. And he's like, yeah, sure. I have lunch break from 12 to 12:30, so let's do 12 to 12:20 the next day. And I set up the meeting. And we have the call. Chris Steve gets on the call. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm here now. What do you need? I'm like, you've been a designer for 6 years. At the time, it was 6 years. If you were to go back to your day one, what would you do differently?
Wow.
That question sounds very simple. But here's the thing. Before you tell me what you would do differently, you have to tell me what you've done. So it's like, tell me about yourself. And then he had to... So the 20 minutes became like an hour call. He told me everything he had done. And like, oh, if I could go back in time, I wouldn't do this way, because like it was a very bad way to go about it. Or it won't work in this time because of like the things that are going on right now. So from there, we became mentor-mentee and became, close pals, I guess. He's getting married next month, by the way, so...
Shout out to him.
Shout out.
Shout out
if
to
you watch
him.
this video, hi. But yeah, that was another turning point, because he gave me so much insight that I'm like, yes, I have enough to change the world right now. I took all the notes from that meeting. I started applying it. And then a week later, I sent him a design I had done to help me review. I didn't think he would check it, honestly, because I know his schedule is really tight. But I'm like, I want to put this on my portfolio. I want to know if it is good enough. If you saw this on my portfolio, would you hire me? And he's like, did you do this? I said, yes. I said, okay, cool. This looks really good. Would you like to intern with us?
Wow.
I would pay to intern with you. And then I get a 2-month internship from that conversation. That's actually how we grew our relationship. That's like 4 years ago, I guess.
And you know what? Just to add on what you just said, it just strongly shows how just you can think that something is unachievable, or at least reaching out to someone is something that you can never possibly do because I'm not big enough for
exactly.
doing that. So I was also having a conversation with Stacey Jim, who has been a guest on this podcast, and her saying that her strategy about whether it's getting clients or getting information or even just talking to mentors is literally just sending a LinkedIn DM. Hey, I saw you did a social media post on this. I'd love to have a conversation with you, or I admire your work. If you could just give me 20 minutes of your time, I would appreciate it. And most times you'll be surprised that people do actually say yes, especially if it's something that it feels like they would be helping you grow whatever it is that you're doing. So I really appreciate that he also just gave you the chance, because it's not easy. You can send an email, it doesn't work. You can end up sending a Twitter, it doesn't work. But as long as you just put yourself out there, it's in one way or another it will end up paying out. So I'm happy that happened to you, because it also led you into doing an internship.
It did.
With them. So
working with Christy was crazy. It was just 2 months, but I don't know if he knows how much impact he made in my life in those 2 months. We're using Adobe XD at the time, which was not the most convenient tool, to be honest. I'm coming from Figma to Chaos, so it wasn't working for me. but I would see him. So how it would work was he would tell me to design something, and I'd do it, and he's like, not good enough. Let's take it from this angle. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. And I would do something better than what I did before, but it's not good enough. Then he would design it, and I'm seeing, oh, yeah, this is what we were talking about. So in the next task, I would try to apply the principles I saw him do in this one. Still wouldn't be as good as he would do it, obviously. But I would just really like to see how he would give me one prompt, take the same prompt. We would both do the same, like work with the same prompt, but like two different quality of work. And I'm like, yeah, that's the standard. We're getting there. So I ended the internship, unfortunately, because the company was willing to hire anybody else full time. It was just him. And then I moved on to, what the next thing I did? I think I was freelancing for a bit. And then this is me learning and learning. I've done multiple challenges online where I would design stuff every day for a period of time and post them. And it was a lot of work. People felt like I was doing too much. But here's the thing. I was job hunting at the time. Actually, how David found me, by the way. I was posting designs continuously on Twitter and he found me. But it helped me grow. With every iteration, with every day, I would have close friends, people like Chris and other senior designers that I was talking to. They'll give me feedback. I'll take that feedback, apply it to the work I'm doing tomorrow. So it was basically iterative over time. And when I look at the work that I did from my first challenge in 2021 to the one I did last year, there's significant progress. You can do this thing repeatedly. Which is why I tell people the only way to learn how to design is to design. You can watch all the YouTube videos on this internet. You can retake all the courses. If you don't put it to practice, it's not doing anything for you. So
you can only read theory for so long.
Exactly.
Just to view what people are doing.
You need to apply that theory to practical. Otherwise, it makes no sense. No company is going to hire you because you know all the principles of design or you've read all the books. If they do, I want to see. That's the thing about tech space. Nobody cares about how many degrees you have. Can you do the work? You could be male, female, child, adults, gay, straight, but whatever you are. If you can't do the work, the qualifications don't matter. You can have a PhD in design. If I don't see proof of work, I'm like, you have actually applied your theory and gotten results. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
And you know what, Alison, I will say, in your context, it's design, but I think that's everything that you end up doing as a career path in general. For you to be the best marketer, you just have to every day think about what is this campaign? This billboard is interesting. What was the thought process? Who did this copy? What will it take to do it to market in an airport? What will it do to market in this? If you want to be a good engineer, you obviously have to dedicate your life and soul at some point to engineering and coding, because it doesn't happen overnight. And one thing I will say is, I think, are we able to just show a bit of your work, like on screen, that you'll share with us, so just people can see Alison's work? I think you have clearly what you've described as experiences that you've been practicing every single day, and your work translates, because when I do see your work and your design challenges, you can see that this is a lot. You've put in your 10,000 hours and then some. So yeah.
Just to highlight, I feel like this was not a conscious decision in the beginning.
Yes, before you even, sorry for interrupting you, ahead. But where did biochemistry follow through in this whole process that you now became so invested in the design work?
This is a recent discovery, but a friend of mine made me think about my life from where I'm coming from to now. I've always been a curious person. I always want to know. People say I'm nosy. I say it's curiosity. I want to know what, how, and why. Which is why medicine was perfect, because things that nobody's thinking about. You have a hiccup. You're thinking about how to take water and be fine. I'm thinking about what triggered that hiccup. Did you eat something? Do you have some electrolyte imbalance? Do you have a molar imbalance? What's going on in your system on an atomic level, on a molecular level? What is going on in the details that we are now seeing as symptoms? Biochemistry as a concept or as a subject, if you put it that way, hasn't really played out yet. Because I do have plans to do something in the health tech sector.
Wow.
You guys had
It'll all come together.
It will all come together. But as a very curious person, biochemistry builds my curiosity even more. My education experience was not the best, but now that I think about it, everything I did in school has kind of tied up to this moment. So like I was mentioning about how I want to know what, how, why, it kind of was from the inadequacy of my academics. Like things were not put in place, so I had to put the pieces for the most part. Actually, I helped a designer because now the designer, I'm able to ask questions based on like text. So you have an idea, I'm going to start pick up your idea and walk through the flow end, like we did with the QR code thing that we were talking about. Oh, sorry about that. Well, yeah.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. So I like to be like really not detail oriented per se, because that's not really what we're talking about. But I want
Granular
to understand
about the details
exactly.
so that
Yeah.
you fully
Why are we doing?
understand.
Okay, you guys want us to make the button black. Why? What if it's white? What advantage does black have over white? Those details that nobody will be talking about. And these questions inform my design decisions. I feel like every designer needs to build some level of curiosity, because your design has to be data driven. You need to ask questions, and if you don't ask these questions, you won't get the answers you need that will then inform your visual or design decisions. So yeah, that's the way that it has started into up until now. So yeah.
Yeah, and so did you manage to finish the biochemistry degree?
I did. I did. I finished.
Okay, got you.
Yeah, I did
All
finish.
right. And then now walk us through now that journey into the next opportunity after freelancing and doing your projects.
Yeah, so luckily I currently work in finance, and I got my job through the challenges that I was doing, weirdly enough. So one thing that, it wasn't a decision at the time it started, but every year of my design career, I have done a new challenge. So I'm saying this year I want to learn UX research, for example, or I want to learn Web3 design. Within that year, I would do at least a 30 or 60-day challenge on that topic, so that now before I start challenge, I have already like done the theory part of it, and now the challenge is for me to practice what I have read or what I have learned exactly. So last year was interaction design with Figma. I think what triggered this, by the way, was I was working on a landing page with a developer, and developer is Cadence, by the way, one of the top guys I know, and I had to show him how I wanted it to be animated, but he was busy, so I had to wait for him to be free so I could get in a call and show him what I wanted. But if I could animate it, I would just send him the animation and he would have gone through with it. So I'm like, I need to learn how to do this thing with Figma. So I went to see the limitation of Figma had at the time. I'm like, you know what, let's do it. Luckily enough, I found a lady on Instagram. Her name is Kim Tang. And she was doing something similar. So I just picked up her template and started working with it.
When was this when you were trying to learn animation?
Yeah, January 1st of last year.
Okay.
It was a 100-day interaction design challenge. And as I got into the, after the first month, the challenges were looking like they're no longer challenging. So I had to find something harder. Because now I know the principles, I know how to do these things, I can just do them fast. But the whole point is to push myself. So I started to get like other complex animations from other tools like Jitter and Principle, for example, that Figma couldn't do. And I would try to see how I could use Figma's limitations
you know how to do them. Use Jitter? Yeah, I do. Okay, I'll talk to you about that later.
And I would try to see how much tweaking would it take for Figma to replicate this, because at the end of the day, I'm working with Figma, so like it just makes sense to do it there. Figma had an update on prototyping later in the year, but like I'm happy that I did that, because it helped me think about stuff and try to dig my way out of any holes or whatever. Think about it.
Would you say that Figma is, in your experience, the best design tool to use when you're
currently? Yes.
UX design? Yes,
it's the easiest to start with. I don't like that now they are getting more engineering focused. Like this was the one thing designers had going for them, but it's fine. We are all one. But yeah, actually, I would recommend Figma to anybody learning, because it's very easy to learn how to use.
Okay, got it. So now you work in finance, and you still do freelancing.
Yes.
Okay.
A little less of that, and we'll explain why, because now I'm doing like my own thing on the side, so there's a little less time for freelancing. I haven't freelanced in a while, actually. Like,
what is your little thing on the side?
So I have a baby girl called Rayna UI.
Yes, we've been seeing it. I've been seeing it. Talk about it.
So how did it start? I had a couple of friends. I'm surrounded by the best people, by the way. They push me to my limits. They also are very annoying, so there's that. But they push me.
I think I know the friends you're talking about.
Yeah, you do know them. They push me, and I welcome it. Like, yes, that's why you're in my life. We should really push it out to be better. So Rayna is basically a design system that we built on Figma, first on Figma, and we're targeting everybody in the product team, including non-technical founders or maybe technical founders who are trying to build stuff. And yeah, so the thing about building stuff is we're working with time. So when we consider the time that it takes to put a team together or build a design system, like that's not what you're building. So it's just like a lot of time that is not tying into what you are doing, what your short-term goals are for your business. So basically build Rayna as a helper basically. So it's basically a plug and play situation. But we were not sure how the market would take it because we did a few things different from other existing design systems.
Could you elaborate on what you mean by design systems or making people's work easier in that product team?
Okay. So for those who might not understand what I mean, I'll try to be as layman, clear terms-ish as possible. When you're building a product, usually designers design the digital experience of the product before it is developed. Now, the design of the product has to be consistent from start to finish, meaning that if I go to Western Union's website and I log in or sign up or whatever, it needs to look like it's still Western Union regardless of the pages that I am in. So if I'm on Western Union's website and then I go to sign up and I'm seeing a different theme, like the color is different, fonts are different, things don't look the same. Now as a user, I'm thrown off because it's not consistent. So bringing that consistency from start to finish is something that every product should have for good user experience. Also, not just consistent, it also has to look really good because it's a no-brainer that good products, beautifully designed products, just sell better. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's like another thing that we're considering. And many founders who are probably trying to build an MVP and don't have the time to hire a full design team to ensure that they are beautifully designed and they're consistent, usually resort to building either not well designed products or having to, what's the last thing I was going to say? Adopt a design system. Now, most design systems that currently exist are limiting. So you would see a design system look more like a UI kit where it is only designed, it only has components designed for financial services, for example. So if I am an edtech platform, I don't have enough to work with because you designed that system mainly for fintech. Mm-hmm. So design systems that have, most of them that are existing are quite limiting components that they have, or they don't have enough components for people to be as expressive in their designs, if it makes sense. So what we're now trying to do is fix this problem. We're going to give you components that are beautifully designed, easy to customize as well, because like if it's too rigid, it's not tying into my own brand. Mm-hmm. So now I have to do a lot of tweaking and it just doesn't make sense. So it's also very easy to customize and we accommodate like a whole range of industries. Mm-hmm. So we have industry-specific components, for example. Think of it like a transaction pin keypad, which will only apply to transaction pins, but it's there if you need it, that kind of thing. So we built the MVP that launched in September of 2023 to test the market and see how people would respond to this. And honestly, we've gotten only good reviews, 100% 5-star ratings.
Love that.
Everywhere. We currently have 6,000 downloads on Figma in about 6 months that we've launched. Mm-hmm. And we're currently working on a V2 that will, I don't know if I should say this here, but like you guys, V2 is going to be mad. Picky promise. I can't tell you details, but we're launching in like a couple months, so just stay tuned. So the MVP was free, by the way, because like we wanted to just test the market and get honest reviews, not people that were just paying for it. So we got everybody to test, we got people to test, we got to see people actually use the components to design their product. I have a friend of mine who has used Rayna's components to design a CRM from start to finish. I didn't even know we could do that. Wow. It's just amazing like how much
I want to use the components for the MIT Story Africa.
You should, because like it's your brand color anyways.
Yeah, we've been working on this, so I would love to just see if you guys can work with us on this one.
We would love to.
Yes, I've actually been seeing a lot of it on social media. One thing you do know how to do that you don't give us is put your work out there and be consistent on social media. Okay. So you guys should also go check out Alison on
the Alison Eyo.
The Alison Eyo on Twitter, on Instagram. I don't think you post on you do.
I do post on Instagram. I'm everywhere.
As well, and
TikTok,
LinkedIn,
everywhere.
So yeah. very exciting stuff that I hear you talking about. And so you're saying that the next step is to offer pricing packages or whatnot for your components,
Yes,
or
there will be. So V2 is significantly more, I promise you, is nothing that you've ever seen before. Nobody else is doing what we're doing for V2. Nobody else is doing what we're doing for V2. This is me bragging with my full chest right now.
as you should.
So there will be pricing plans, but we will be reasonable with the pricing, obviously. But at the same time, nothing good comes cheap. So get your money ready.
Get your money ready is how we're gonna leave this
Yeah.
parting short. But wow, thank you so much, Alison. I think your story has been one that has been inspirational. I think you've been someone who definitely believes in one being challenged, and then you take up the challenge with everything you have and doing your best to be the best at doing what you want to do, and also consistency and resilience through the tough times. And I think that's extremely admirable, and especially for what you've said, where you've come from with the rigidity of what women's expectations are supposed to be, and you beating the system. Actually, maybe that's the last question I'll ask you before we get into the closing questions of the episode is, now that you've grown up and you've continued within that path of not being the stereotypical expectations that of course you still do, but not to the extent that maybe others have expected you to, do you still feel that resistance from family members or the community that you're from to be a certain kind of woman? And how does that still affect you when it comes to quote unquote your womanhood?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
luckily for me, I have a very supporting family. My mom especially has been like there through it
love
all.
that.
She didn't get it in the beginning, but she was there regardless. That's something that I will always be grateful for. Like, she didn't understand what it was. Like, you sent a child to study biochemistry in school and then you're coming here to press computer. But then she's like, you know what, I'm going to trust you. We'll let you do you. And she has seen like how that has grown in, and she always told me she's proud of me. So like, I love that. For extended family, they might not take it. They might take it. I really don't care.
Don't care.
So, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Alison. I think I'm going to ask you the closing off questions that we ask our guests after every episode.
Sure.
The first one that I have for you is, what's one word to describe the journey to get to where you are today, and why?
Just one word.
Just one word.
Can I give two?
Feel free.
Yeah. I think it would be consistency and resilience. There is no other way to describe it. Consistency because, it's just a no-brainer. I need to do these things every time. Design is something that improves as you show up. And the more frequently you show up, honestly, the better for you. Imagine having designing every month. Actually, now that I'm on topic, I have designed every day since 2021.
Wow.
Weekends inclusive. I'm not saying I'm designing like work design, but like I have something I like to try out, an idea I had in the bathroom. I want to see how it works, or I'm making a video on design, or I'm making a course on design. I've done something design related every day since 2021.
Wow.
When I started designing, somebody told me, I'm like, I can't design every day. What do you mean every day of my life I'm designing? But yeah, now I cannot not design. On this trip, every time I go to, I was in my room most of the time anyways.
She was on her
exactly.
in her room the whole time.
There's always something. There was this, when we were jet skiing, I had this random idea, had to sketch on my phone. And we got to the hotel, I had to like implement it.
Alison has been in her room half the trip, and we were there for about 6 days.
In my defense, it was really hot. So,
Actually, just side note from that question, I remember there was a time you had called me just to get on advice on feeling like design had been everything that your life has become, and you were feeling maybe there's, is this what life is now? Are there other things that maybe you want to explore? Kind of just do you still feel that way, that design has basically taken over your whole life? And maybe in a way that you're not sure I should be.
The irony? Now I feel like I'm not even doing enough. That's the irony. That was like last year.
That was last year.
And now I feel like I'm not doing enough. Wow. I feel like what has changed from that time till now is that I have taken more speaking engagements. Like, actually, a lot more speaking engagements. Physical speaking engagements. I'm talking to people. Design, non-design related, has really expanded my view on like the work in general. So I don't think design is tying me down or like is. I mean, I should get a life. Really. But in terms of like the work that I do, I don't think that design is uncomfortable. it's my safe space, and I love it here now. So I'm going to do what I can now, where I am, and just let life lead me. To be honest, because yeah.
I love that. Okay, second question I have for you is, do you have any regrets or things that you wish you did differently throughout your journey?
Do I have any regrets? Not really. There was I think it was just my mindset. Actually, it's not a regret, it's more like I had to have it anyways. Like if I didn't have it, I wouldn't appreciate now that I know that I shouldn't have had it. Does it make sense? You don't know what you have until you lose this kind of situation.
Wow.
So I had the mindset, I don't think I should say it here because like it's pretty embarrassing. But there was a mindset that I started designing with and working with, that it wasn't the best. It was so limiting on my part. Feel like you are undermining yourself. And it took my circle to help me see that you're capable of a lot more. And I know that now. So knowing that now is conscious, like, oh, at some point I didn't know this. Also helped me work with other people. So I'm talking to other designers, junior designers, and they are saying some things that shouldn't be said. I'm like, I've been there, done that. It's fine. You grow out of it eventually. It's not a regret. It's just something that I'm conscious about.
Okay. And the last thing I have for you is to give us a powerful parting shot. How would you like to wrap up your episode?
So there's a notion that the product design space is saturated. I kid you not, it's not saturated at all. We have many people learning design, venturing into design, but we only have very few actually good product designers. So if you are trying to learn design and you're saying, oh, there are many designers already, that is not an excuse to not learn design. I saw a video today where the guy was talking about top 4 text fields that are saturated. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. Because even the content creation you're doing now is saturated, but you're doing it anyways. And some people just do things better than other people. So don't be discouraged by the fact that everybody's posting design and I feel like, there are too many already, I don't want to be that. Focus more on what will stand you out if you were to start learning design today. My dad always tells me there's always room at the top. A building can have 20 stories or 20 floors, but if you go to the 20th floor, there's almost nobody there. Like on the ground floor, there's 1 million people. On the second floor, there's a few less people. On the 10th floor, there's still like less people. But on the top floor, it's almost always empty. Only the big guys are on top floor. So what you should focus on is how can I get to that top floor and stand out in my field. I hope that helps.
That was a very powerful message. I think
Thanks.
that was a very good way to wrap up the episode. Very inspirational right there. And I thank you so much for honoring my invite to be on this platform.
Thank you for
I know I
having
may
me.
not see you in person for a bit of months to come, but it's been absolutely great to have you on here and just talk about your experience.
Thank you.
I am rooting for Rayna UI. We will be putting it so that people can also have access to the link to test it out and everything.
Okay.
And I shall be talking to you on the side about how we can work together in
absolutely.
keeping
Looking forward to it.
both our brands pushing. So if you've enjoyed this episode, now's the time for you to subscribe from wherever you're listening from, whether that's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of the major listening platforms, as well as check out our website at fcsafrica.co and join our community, because we now have newsletters that are officially running on your email. So if you just join our community, you'll be able to gain access to exclusive insights both on My Tech Story Africa and what's happening in the tech landscape as well. Finally, check us out on social media at My Tech Story Africa, and yes, follow Alison on all her platforms as well, because she does some amazing content, especially geared towards design. So yeah, that being said,
Thank you.
she'll see you guys in the next week. Adios.